Hey there, it's Mario here, and in this video I wanted to answer one of the most frequently asked questions that I get all the time, and that is, why do I eat when I'm not hungry? So what is driving us to overeat? What is driving non-homeostatic eating? And this is the type of eating that we do when we're not really hungry, so there's no physiological need for it, but it's happening. That's one of the main reasons why we blow our diets in most cases, because we simply overeat calories. And I've wondered this myself for a very long time. I mean, why do we eat so much? What is the main reason for that? And I've actually found 7 reasons, looking into the science, looking into the research, which I'm about to share with you guys. And to be fair, if you fix these 7 reasons, you're gonna make your diet effortless. This is kind of the key to making sure that you can stick to your diet, and even if it's low calories, it's still not gonna be a problem because you fixed the major problems that make sticking to a diet very difficult, which is overeating and eating when you're not even hungry. So let's start off with the point number 1, very, very important, probably the most important out of all the 7 key points here. And that is food palatability and food reward value and food variety. So what is palatability? Well, let me give you an example. Let's say you just finished dinner and you're full, you're stuffed. The dinner was amazing. You're telling your friends, we're all talking about how great the food was, and you're really full. I mean, you feel like you're gonna throw up if you have any more food. But let's say at the same moment as you're talking to your buddies, there's a plate of just freshly baked brownies. The waiter is just bringing them out and they smell amazing. They just fill the whole restaurant with the smell of just those awesome chocolate brownies. The chocolate is melting, they're just freshly baked. And you're looking at those brownies, everybody's looking at those brownies, you're all talking about the brownies. Of course you're gonna eat some brownies, right? Even though 2 minutes before you were talking to your friends and telling them, okay, I'm full, I cannot eat anything else, I'm stuffed, right? It's gonna end here. But still, you're gonna eat that brownie. And on the other hand, let's say that waiter just brought out a plate of freshly boiled potatoes, no salt, just plain old potatoes, boiled. And he just puts that plate in front of you. Of course you're not gonna eat, right? You're most likely not gonna eat because you're full, right? And nobody's gonna eat, right? And most people will say, well, I'm full and I just had dinner, I can't eat that. And the main reasons for that is that the brownie is hyper palatable. The brownie is designed, the formula to make that brownie is designed to make you overeat, to basically bypass your signaling where it's driving you to eat, because you're looking at that food reward value from that food is going to make you feel better, right? It's going to make you feel, you know that it's going to make you feel better. That's one thing that often drives us to overeat, is that the food is engineered, and we often underestimate this factor, is that there's thousands of engineers right now working in a lab figuring out how to make the food as tasty as possible, basically to bypass all our natural defense systems. This is happening as we speak, as you're watching this video right now. This is happening of this moment, and this is what the food industry has known for a very, very long time, that you can make people overeat despite the fact that people aren't hungry. And what is the ultimate formula? Well, it's not just sugar, it's not just fat, it's actually a combination of sugar and fat that makes the food hyper palatable without a little bit of salt, make just the perfect formula without a lot of different sweeteners, all these different things, and it's extremely difficult to stop eating this food. So another factor here that I mentioned is variety, because when we're exposed to a lot of variety, we're actually eating more food. And if you look at a buffet, and if you look at studies related to buffets, people, when they're exposed to a lot of variety, despite the fact that all the separate foods aren't that tasty, when you put all of them together, they seem a lot tastier, they seem a lot more appealing. So we're gonna overeat if there's a lot of variety. The second key factor here is, out of the 7, is food availability and the cost of effort. So how much effort you actually need to put in to get the food. So let me take that example of the dinner and the plate of brownies. So let's say those brownies were put on your table. Of course you're gonna eat, right? There's no effort that you need to put in to get that brownie. But at the same time, imagine you saw those baked brownies and they're fresh, but across the street in a bakery, and you're just looking at through the window, you're most likely not going to stand up and go there to that bakery and pick up that brownie, even though you know that the brownie is probably very, very tasty, but it's far away. The effort for you to actually stand up, put on some clothes, maybe just go there and come back, it's probably not worth it. And that's a very interesting factor, is that food availability plays a huge role in how much food you eat. If the food is readily available, if you're working in your kitchen, for example, at your table, and you're just working there and the food is all around you, you're very, very likely to overeat. And especially if there's hyper palatable food around you, because then you're having 2 things going against you. Food is super, super tasty, and the second thing is food is readily available, so it literally takes 0 calories for you to get that food and eat that food. So a great example how you can get rid of this is just get rid of all the junk food from your house, right? Keep it outside of the house. And if you really want to eat something, you actually have to go out and get it, and you want to go out with your friends, you want to make it some kind of event, make it a little bit special, expand some extra calories as well, and you're going to enjoy it and have better success with your diet because the food isn't readily available. The third very, very important factor out of the 7 is social environment, is that the fact that if we eat with a large group of people, 6+ people especially, we tend to eat about 70% more calories. And I'm not saying that you should never eat with your friends or you shouldn't eat in large groups, but I'm saying this is something to be aware of, because every time you're consuming food with a lot of people, every time you're surrounded with a lot of people who eat, you're actually pinging subconsciously how much food those people are eating. And you're kind of adjusting. On a subconscious level, we always try to fit in. And that's one problem if you're, let's say, surrounded with people who are generally eating more, despite the fact whether they're overweight or underweight, they might be eating a lot more calories than you need. You might find yourself overeating because you're just compensating because they're there. And that's an important factor to be aware of, as well as the fact that over the weekends, we tend to eat about 5 to 10% more calories due to the fact that most of us spend a lot of time with our friends and with our family and with large groups of people during the weekend. So very, very key factor here to look into, something that is often neglected, something that is not often mentioned. The fourth factor is stress and boredom. The fact is that we use food to change our state. And this is, an often occurrence. When I'm stressed, the first thing I actually look forward to is eating some food. And that's really weird and something that I'm fixing consciously, and I have to fix it consciously because I know myself. And there are people, like me, they've actually been identified by good research that certain people respond to stress with overeating, and this is about 40%, right? And then there's other people who respond to stress by undereating, so avoiding food. So you need to see which type of person you are. But it really all comes down to whether it's stress or boredom is the change of state. So you feel a little bit down, feel a little bit negative, negative thoughts, negative emotions, feel like you're not really happy, and let's eat some food to make ourselves happy. And in this situation, we go for highly palatable, super, super high food reward situations where we eat brownies, we eat cakes, we eat chocolate and things like that as a comfort food, as something to make us feel better. So super, super important to be aware of this, because essentially we're not hungry, but that change of state is something we're trying to do. So we can actually do that with exercise. We can do that with something else. We can go for a walk and listen to an audiobook. We can meditate. We can do a variety of different things. Listen to some music, listen to a motivational video, educate ourselves, have fun with friends and family, call a friend or something like that that will change our state, and without using any food, without overeating calories. The other factor, moving on to the fifth factor, and that is alcohol consumption. So alcohol consumption itself has a boatload of calories. 1 gram of alcohol, 7 calories, right? That's not a minor amount, especially considering that we consume a large amount of alcohol, and it's actually going up over the years. So this is kind of a hidden reason why we're dealing with obesity, is that people have been actually drinking more and more alcohol, and alcohol itself isn't that much of a problem, even though we consume a large amount of alcohol, but it leads to very, very poor food decisions. We all know that at the end of the night, we're going out of a club, we had a couple of drinks, we all go to that kebab place, or we go for that nacho place at 2:30 in the morning, we consume a large amount of calories, and we go home and we hit the bed, right? Number one, we get poor sleep from that. Number two, we overconsume a large amount of calories because alcohol actually makes you hungrier. So it's a no-no situation, right? You cannot win. It's a kind of a lose-lose scenario if you consume alcohol, and especially if it's not controlled. After that, important factor number 6 that I want to mention here is insufficient or poor quality sleep. And this is a big issue with today's world, where we really don't get enough sleep. And not getting enough sleep, drives us to eat more, we are more hungry, we're less full after food. We also are burning more muscle and less fat on a diet, in a calorie deficit. So if you're in a calorie deficit, you're actually going to lose a lot more muscle mass, and you're going to burn a lot less fat if you're not getting sleep. And this has been well documented in research, where a group slept about 5 hours, and then the second group slept about 8 hours. The group that slept 8 hours preserved almost all the muscle mass compared to the group with 5 hours, which burned a lot more muscle mass. So if you're really looking to preserve your gains, make gains in the gym, and as well as maximize your fat loss, the good idea is to get enough sleep. And looking in terms of food, getting enough sleep will prevent a lot of those cravings that we're dealing with throughout the day. And the final factor that I want to mention here, a very, very important factor, is that we eat because it's a habit. You know, it's lunchtime. You know, it's lunchtime, it's time to eat. We've been conditioned, that way it's normal to be conditioned to eat at a certain point in time. And one great study on this actually done on patients with amnesia is the researchers wanted to see what are the effects of memory, basically remembering the meal, and how that affects how much food we're gonna have. And they told people, hey, it's lunchtime, and people ate lunch. Because they had amnesia, they couldn't remember that. 20 minutes later, the researchers said again, it's lunchtime, people ate again. And afterwards, the third time, they said it's lunchtime again, and they ate again. So it's basically, they could repeat this because people didn't remember that they had lunch, but they had a trigger, they had that cue that was basically the researchers saying it's lunchtime to overeat, or basically to eat because they thought that they were just eating lunch. You know, they didn't know that they already had 2 lunches. So very, very important factor here is that we eat out of a habit, and that's something that oftentimes is getting neglected. We don't even know why we're consuming food, and something to be aware of, why food journals are so powerful. When you're tracking stuff with MyFitnessPal or some other app, you can actually see what are your habits. When are you consuming food when actually it wasn't time to consume food? We just ate something because you either felt like it, or you're conditioned into it, or like I always have chocolate after breakfast, or I always have ice cream with dinner, or I always have this or that, or in the middle of the day. And that is something that we need to be aware of to see, because it can be driving a large amount of calorie consumption without even us knowing it, right? Most of our food decisions are actually subconscious. So I hope you guys enjoyed. These are the 7 factors. I've done the research. This is a compilation of things that are driving us to eat even though we're not hungry. So very, very important to master these, to adjust your diet, to avoid these factors, and it will make the diet a lot easier, make your life a lot easier in a calorie deficit. So hope you enjoyed, and let me know in the comments below which one of these 7 factors would you want to implement first? Which ones are you kind of identifying as I was going through the video? Which ones do you feel like resonate the most? Which one are you going to work on the most? So let me know in the comments below, share with me. Aside from that, make sure to hit that subscribe button below to support the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.